Yo, so today I'm going to do my top 5 best books of 2015. So 2015 was probably the best reading year I've ever had. I read 40 books. I always set my Goodreads challenge to 20, so I doubled that, so I was impressed with that. The only kind of resolution I've made for myself for 2016 is to try to read every day, or just to manage my time better and fit reading in, because I've said this many times before, I don't read every day, and when I do read, I read for very short periods, like 20 minutes, half an hour. Reading wise, I read a lot of really good stuff last year. I read some that I really didn't like, and I'll leave the link below to my worst books of 2015 if you haven't already seen it. But yeah, let's get into it. Coming in at number 5 is Requiem for a Dream by Hubert Selby Jr. This book almost destroyed me. It is just like soul destroying. It just really does one over on you. It follows a man named Harry, who's a drug addict, and his mother, who's also a drug addict in a sense. She's addicted to diet pills, and she's just obsessed with her weight. She lives alone as she's been widowed. And it's just her story and Harry's story. The writing style is very unique in this book because there's no quotation marks used, so very little separates the reader from the story, so you're really just immersed in that world. At first that can be quite difficult to get used to, but once I got my head around it, I was grand. I gave this 4 stars. I just thought it was painfully stunning, and I definitely want to read more Hubert Selby Jr. in the future. Coming in at number 4 is a book I don't have on hand because I got it at the library. It is Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. This is a short story collection, kind of horror, sci-fi, mystery, thriller, all those good things thrown into one. I did a review on this, I'll leave the link to that below. I just loved it so much. And I really want to read more Yoko Ogawa in the future, but I kind of have a feeling that I started with the best, so I'm kind of like, it's quite haunting because there's beautiful imagery used, and when I was reading it, I could just picture everything so clearly in my mind. But then at the end of the stories, there's always a twist, and all of a sudden you see the story for what it really was. You see the horrific reality, and it's just so well done. All the short stories are connected in some way or another, so you'll see the same characters pop up, or same locations, things like that. But it felt very natural, the connections in the short stories, and I'm sure there's some connections that I missed. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Coming in at number 3 is Just Kids by Patti Smith. This is Patti Smith's memoir of her life in New York in the 60s and 70s when she was in her early 20s, and it tells the story of her and her friendship with Robert Mapplethorpe. I don't know what I was expecting when I went into this, but it is so beautifully written. She doesn't look back at her time in her 20s through like rose-tinted glasses and kind of wanting to go back and revisit her youth. She looks at it and you can tell that she just really appreciates everything, and it's quite interesting because in this book you see her go from like Patti Smith to Patti Smith. You know, you have to wonder if she hadn't met Robert Mapplethorpe, maybe she wouldn't have even gone into music, since he was the one who encouraged her so much. And especially when it comes to their relationship, it's very interesting, but it's also just heartbreaking. You feel her loss when he dies. The story, it starts out where she's recollecting his death, and then it goes back into it at the end of the book, but it's just wonderfully done. It's probably one of the best memoirs I've ever read. I gave it 5 stars. Coming in at number 2 is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. This is a recent read for me. I've been, after about 3 years of procrastinating, I finally picked it up and gave it a read, and I was just, my wig was blown clean off. It is written from the perspective of our protagonist, Humbert, who is a French man living in America, and he also happens to be a paedophile. So it's basically his story of grooming and, would it be considered kidnapping? A young Dolores Hayes who is his Lolita. This book is crafted, every sentence is crafted. It's so beautiful, and like, you know, everyone says that, but it's true. Everyone says it because it's true. Even though it's creepy and horrific and gross, you can't help but continue to read. Subject matter wise, it wasn't as hard to read as I thought it would be, and so I gave it 5 stars. It's just absolutely wonderful. And finally, coming in at number 1, my favourite book of 2015 has to be Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. This just blew me away. Again, it was a book that I put off for quite a while because I'd heard it was really depressing, It's not really depressing, it's just quite sad. Written from the perspective of Charlie Gordon, who is intellectually disabled. His IQ is 68. He works in a bakery, basically kind of sweeping floors and things like that. He's also working with a university who are testing his intelligence, and by testing his intelligence they're making him compete with a mouse as to see who can complete a maze quick enough, and the mouse, who is Algernon, the mouse on the cover, is constantly beating Charlie, and Charlie hates Algernon because of this. But then the university conducts an experimental operation on Algernon to see if they can boost his intelligence, and it works. So Charlie gladly offers himself up as the first human test subject, and they perform the operation on him, and it works. The way we see Charlie get more intelligent is through his progress reports. The book is written completely in progress reports by Charlie, so when you start reading it, everything is kind of misspelt, and you can tell he has the IQ of 68. After his surgery, you see his grammar get better, you see him start to use punctuation, and his spelling improve, and he becomes super intelligent to the point where he becomes very self-aware. Then he has to deal with mortality and the idea of mortality, and he starts to question everything. So I'll leave it there with the synopsis as to not spoil it, but it was heartbreaking, and at one point when I found out that where the title comes from, it did make my lip wobble a bit. It just made me so sad. This is just a book that just delivers on every account. I just thought it was amazing. I think everyone should absolutely read it. If you're in a mood for a bit of a tearjerker, you should definitely check this out. It was 5 stars, obviously. Loved it. So those have been my top 5 best books of 2015. Let me know the best books that you read last year, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.